Hey friends, I'm Sabrina and I'm all about finding safe and affordable ways to build wealth right here in Singapore. In this video, I aim to break down the pros and cons of getting a BTO or a resale flat, and hopefully this will help you in your decision-making process as well. So firstly, disclaimer, even though I have been in real estate for the last 10 years, I don't claim to be an expert on property-related matters, just that I have my experience working for me. So let's look at the pros of getting a BTO first, like why the craze, right? So the most obvious pro of getting a BTO is that everything is brand new. Your entire estate is clean, your corridors, your lift lobby, even your rubbish chute. Even the entire house is a clean slate, it's a blank canvas to begin with as well. In the entire neighborhood, your amenities, they're all brand new as well. That's one of the biggest draws of getting a BTO. The next pro of getting a BTO, right, is that because it's a clean slate, you actually get to save quite a bit on your renovation cost, because if you have opted in for your HDB floor tiles, your sanitary fittings, the doors, which typically will be paid and covered by your CPF, even have to come out cash for it, then your renovation, you just need to maybe overlay those floor tiles, and that saves quite a bit of cost in terms of waterproofing and so on and so forth. And also, as compared to like a HDB resale flat whereby it's much older, you probably have to gut renovate everything, and there's an extra cost of tearing it down, hacking, and then disposal, as compared to the BTO whereby you don't have to do that because it's a clean slate. So you do save a little bit on renovation in that sense. And the third biggest pro of getting a BTO, in my opinion, is really the capital appreciation. Because when the government actually releases all these BTOs, it's really for regular, every Singaporean like you and I to get a home, to have a roof over our heads. So I think that's a priority of our government, which I'm honestly very thankful for. But because of that, basically you're getting your BTO at a lower price, like minimally 100k lower than all your resale counterparts in the same area. And so typically upon MOP period, after 5 years, you would usually see capital appreciation of sorts of minimally 100 to 200k, and some cases even like 250 in those super desirable areas, of course. In Singapore terms, we always say it's like your first pot of gold, in order for you to kind of make that jump and upgrade to your private property and so on and so forth. So that is one of the biggest pro in getting a BTO. Now let's cover the cons of getting a BTO, which is actually the pro of getting a resale flat, if you know what I mean. So the first point is that getting a BTO, you are not in control of the location, because it really depends on where the government releases those sites to be at. So for example, in the upcoming BTO launch in the next few months, these are the sites that will be released, right? And if all these sites that have been released are not part of your top few location choices, and if you still want to go ahead with those BTOs, it does mean that you're kind of like settling for your second best. But of course, if you're okay with that, please go ahead. But if not, then you're kind of like settling for something lesser than your desired location, right? So I think that's the first biggest con of getting a BTO, which is the first pro of getting a resale flat, because based on your budget, we can look at the entire Singapore basically to see where is the perfect location for you, based on the amenities, based on the schools, and so on and so forth, or even like being near your parents and all that. And there are those set of grants that come with the resale HDB flats as well. So that is first pro of getting resale HDB. And one of the next biggest con, I would say, of getting a BTO as compared to a resale flat right now is that if you think, oh, I want to get my high capital appreciation, right, and I want to focus on getting those like great locations like Kallang or like Queenstown area, Bukit Merah area, so on and so forth, Toa Payoh, right? So unfortunately, right now, it's a little bit of a different ballgame, because our government has released another round of cooling measures recently, that all these prime location housing, right, will be under the plus and prime housing ruling. So what that means is that typically, even for both, right, prime and plus housing, you are actually stuck in that BTO flat for not just 5 years. Your MOP period is not just 5 years, but it's now up to 10 years. And possibly when you are in your 20s and when you first apply for this, you might think, oh, okay, 10 years is not big of a deal, it's not big of a deal, it should be okay. But to be honest, the 10 years actually doesn't start from the date that you apply for your BTO flat. The 10 years actually start from the date that you collect your keys. So not only do you have to wait for your BTO flat to be built, which is about, let's say, 3 to 4 years, right? So that's about 3 to 4 years. Let's say take 4. And then you have to wait for another, not just 5, but 10 years. So there's a total of a 14-year wait, right? Until you can get out of there and maybe, carry on with your asset progression or whatever plans that you have. And let's say I've had friends that think, oh, I don't think we're going to give birth anytime soon, or even at max, I'm only going to have one child. So a 3-room or even a 4-room flat in Singapore should be fine and should be able to last me for a long time. But lo and behold, maybe God bless you and you have like 2 kids and you realize that, oh my goodness, like I'm possibly halfway in, you stayed in your BTO for a while and you realize you need more space. And guess what? You actually can't do anything about it. You have to finish the entire MOP period of 10 years, before you can actually move on to a flat of a bigger size or whatsoever. So that is something that, to be honest, kind of scares me a little bit. But you do you if you decide to go ahead with those and you have your family planning and all that. But I'm just saying, for a regular Singaporean, being stuck there for 10 years and not being able to do anything about it is something of a consideration. Next, under these plus and prime housing ruling, there is a 30-month wait-up period for private downgraded. So how does that affect you as a future seller? Is that your pool of buyers will be a little bit more narrower, which is not that great of a news, because these private downgraders to HDB are the ones with the most cash on hand because they just sold their private property. They are looking to downgrade into a HDB in a great location, and they have the cash. So typically, they are the ones that have no issues paying cash over valuation for a great home. And so after these 10 years, not only are you waiting for a 10-year MOP, but after that, your pool of buyers will not include this group of people that has the cash to actually buy over your house. So that is one of the considerations that you need to have, because that actually directly affects your so-called capital appreciation, that huge capital appreciation, or your first pot of gold that you're actually trying to look for. And on top of that, you actually have a subsidy clawback of your resale price. So what that really means is that your hopes of getting that super high appreciation from selling your amazing BTO flat in your plus or prime location, the government will actually claw back a certain percentage of your profits from your resale price, right? I really encourage you to see it as a whole from a bigger picture point of view, to see, okay, in the next 10 to 15 years, what are my rough plans, and does really getting a BTO fit into this plan that I have? And the final question I'm always asked by my friends is, let's say if I were to go for a HDB resale flat. I don't want to wait for a BTO, I want to go for a resale flat, and maybe your ideal is a large size unit that is in a certain location. But what if, in order for you to experience that dream lifestyle and neighborhood that you want, and the size of the flat, they are typically in more mature estates that are much older flats, for example 30 or 40-year-old flats. And one question I'm always asked is, what happens if I were to buy into that, and if I were to plan to stay for like 10 or 15 years, for example, will I end up being stuck there as well? Because what if I can't sell the flat because of lease decay, because all these flats are also 99-year leasehold, right? So once it hits like 50 plus years old, will people still want to buy? Well, here's my personal opinion, right? So it's all about choosing the right location. So it's not a joke when like real estate agents say it's all about location, 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 because that is a fact and that is the truth. What do I mean by that? It has to fit certain factors, key factors that Singaporean buyers will always look at. Number one is it has to be near very desirable good schools, and not just any good schools, but desirable ones. There's a saying in the East, because I stay in the East, for example, in the Marine Parade estate, there are many Taunan buyers. We call it, even, I know it's a Taunan primary school, but there's a Taunan effect. We call it a Taunan effect in Marine Parade, because no matter how old these estates are, these are like 40, even up to 50-year-old flats, right? They are still having a demand for it because of the schools nearby. Not only do you have Taunan Primary, you have CHIJ Katong Primary, you have like Nian Primary, and because of that, there is always a very healthy demand, a fresh demand of parents and families looking to relocate to that area to send their kids to school. So that is one of the huge factors if you are looking at buying a resale flat. And secondly, it has to have great amenities as well, good transportation and a lot of food, eateries nearby, malls and whatsoever. And lastly, of course, the certain feel and the lifestyle in that neighborhood as well. So all these are drawing and pull factors that will lead people to your estate in the future. So for you as a HDB resale buyer, what I always advise my clients is, I want you to look further. I want you to look like, even in the worst case scenario that you don't get to sell your flat, will you be happy kind of like staying there for the rest of your life as well, and just waiting for a possible SIRS because it's in such a prime location, right? So that's in the worst case scenario. But if not, there will actually be a healthy demand from there. So I'm just saying Marine Parade as an example, but there are other areas and other estates that your real estate agent or myself can actually advise you in as well. So the key thing is really about location and its amenities. And yeah, just go for it. Don't worry too much, because honestly, in Singapore, there's a lack of land everywhere. There's not, in prime locations like that, the government is not just going to let it sit there, you know, until it rots to like 90 plus years old. So I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but just don't quote me on that. But I mean, I'm just saying it's a fact that land is scarce in Singapore, and so yeah, choose the right location. I think that's the most important. So to conclude this video, basically, if you have tried for your BTO multiple times and if you have been unsuccessful in it, don't feel like you're on the losing end of the stick, because there are many great HDB resale flat options out there as well for you. And yeah, so don't feel too FOMO about it. Don't feel too sad about it. There is hope. There's not only one way to start your whole property journey in Singapore. So if you made it this far, I just want to really thank you for watching the entire video. I just really hope this helps you and gives you clarity. If not, you can give a like and subscribe. And that's about it. So I'll see you in the next video. See ya!